So today I want to tell you about this idea of, they call it sounds sort of intense because the word doctrine is used, and I don't like necessarily the word doctrine, but traditionally in Buddhist thought they use this term called the Doctrine of Interdependence. And I think it's an important thing to remember because of all my years of practice. I thought like, oh, I'm doing this practice, so I should feel happy all the time, or I should be, feeling really great all the time. And I think that's kind of a setup for failure, and maybe you need to go through that process in order to like understand how it works. But basically the concept of it is that like, you've probably heard this, you talk to friends while you're like, tripping out or like whatever, talking about deep philosophical things like how there can't be light without dark, and there can't be dark without light. They go together, the yin and the yang. And this is what the law of interdependence is. And there's analogies like, does the sun give off light if there's no eyes to see the sun? It's like a question like that, and the interesting thing about it is it's this reminder that everything that is happening in the world around you is perfectly in harmony, and the way that it's perfectly in harmony is that life is able to exist. And the challenge with that is you think, yeah, but what about all of the pain and suffering that's happening in the world? How could that be in harmony? And the thing is like, look at your life. Your life is made up of all of this pain and suffering and all of this joy and triumph, and you need to experience both. And so what meditation practice becomes is acknowledging that both of those things exist, and then living your life in a way that you can find peace with both, and that's harmonious living, instead of thinking it has to be all this. Because if you start saying, and I would even beware of spiritual teachings that say like it's got to be light and good all the time, and someday you're going to be light and good all the time, because there are teachings like that, and that's a scary thing because it's not possible. It is possible to have peace with that, to have peace with the idea that, I like the idea, since we're sitting in this beautiful park, it's like the bird needs to eat the worm to survive, and it's a terrible thing for the worm, but also in the grand scheme of life, you are the bird and you are the worm, and can you find some peace with that? And it doesn't mean that you become reckless and go all dark. I'm just going to cause whatever I want and do what I want, because it can't be all that either. And by dark I mean causing pain, like a dark brooding energy. You're both of those things. And when you attempt to be only one, if you attempt to be only a hedonist, then you're going to be corrected. If you attempt to be only a saint, you're going to be corrected. And I think all of this spiritual practice is to acknowledge you're both of those things and to find some peace with that. And then you're able to just simply be alive, which is the purpose of all of this practice. And there's less striving to get somewhere that can't be obtained. Well, you're going to constantly be going back and forth because it's nature trying to... Here's the thing, and we've talked about this before, is that in a tug of war, nature will win every time. So you may have some individual will based on your personality, like, I really want to be like this. But if it's not in alignment with that law of interdependence, the dark needs the light needs the dark, it's just going to correct you. And then the correction is not always welcome, And I've had that. I've thought, oh, fuck it, I don't want to do any of these practices anymore. It's too much work. And eventually you get corrected and are brought back into the light of spiritual practice. And then I've also had times where I thought, oh, I don't want to live like that anymore. I've caused a lot of pain with the choices that I made, and I'm just going to do good from now on. And then eventually it becomes so exhausting. It's like, you're never going to do that. It's not possible. You can't do good all the time. And when you hear those words, some people might go, oh, well, that's really disheartening. Like, isn't that awful? But the reality of it is that it's not good or bad, it's just the nature of life. And so you look at it from this place of observation and try and make peace with the fact that there's a lot of suffering and that there's a lot of joy, and those things create the balance of living. And so a practice of meditation is really just acknowledging that and being okay with it. And it doesn't mean, if I say we're sitting here and we see a bird caught in a net, I don't go, well, there's darkness to life, nothing you can do. No, I will go and try and set the bird free. But if the bird doesn't live, I'm not going to, lose sleep about it for weeks on end, because this is the nature of life and these things happen, and I care about the bird, but it's not getting so hung up where it's like it's all this and not that. Because really the reality is that those things need each other to exist. Pain and suffering go together. And can you make peace with that? I think what we're doing with all of this meditation and all of this yoga is coming to a place where we see that. We see that pain is part of the equation. It can be terrible. It's not that bad. It's what sustains life. Without the pain, there wouldn't be the experience of joy. Look at how a child is born into this world. And that keeps happening. Like, we're being rebirthed all the time through our suffering, and so I think that the way this interdependence works is that you come to this place where you acknowledge that there's going to be joy and there's pain. So when you're doing something in your life, instead of avoiding pain or seeking pleasure, you're just doing the thing. I'm drinking my tea, not thinking about my problems. I'm just there with my tea. And then I'm doing my taxes, and then I'm walking through the park, and then I'm angry, and I'm just being angry, and I was walking with a friend the other day, and somebody was having like a road rage experience where they were upset that the car was signaled late to turn left, so they couldn't go straight. So he goes whipping around the car, like blazing on the horn. You can tell he's screaming and yelling. And I said to my friend, all that means is that person isn't present. And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, he's where he's going in his mind. That's why he's reacting like that. If he was present, he would just be there. The person is turning, he has to go around. That's it. There's no story connected to it. The story comes from, I'm late and I need to, and then and this person got in my way, and blah 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 blah. And then what comes out of that? An irrational or inappropriate response. The appropriate response is, now that person's turning left, I have to go around. There's no story attached to it. So ultimately that's what we're doing with acknowledging pain and pleasure, so that we can just be present. And if we be present, then we have a lot more peace in our life. It's not freedom from pain, but it's not being controlled by pain. And that's the law of interdependence. It's the ability to be fully present. And so we do, this is painful. It hurts my shoulders when I do this. I don't really want to do this. And then also, like, having the teacher tell you, you're amazing, you can do this, or using a mantra to remind yourself. And so you start to have this experience of pain and pleasure at the same time in meditation, so that when you face that moment and you start to go out of the present moment, seek for something external, or you're in another place other than where you are, you can snap back into the present moment. And that's the point of it.